Okay guys, we are back. If you've been following along, you know that we are knee deep in this Back to Church series, and we are talking about ways to reconnect with the church after you have experienced some sort of hurt within a church setting. Okay, the premise is that many people who have experienced hurt in the church may not necessarily want to stay apart from the church, but you want to know how to reintegrate back in the church and what a healthy churches even look like so that you can know what church to go to and where it's safe at. But anyway, we're continuing with this series. We have already tackled going and getting some healing and doing some work outside of the church. Then we've tackled the question of, do I go back to my old church or do I try something new? Then we talked about the importance of repairing with God and the church. And we had one more, which was a soft entry is everything. Just work your way in gently, honor your boundaries, and be cautious, okay? And so today we are picking up on this last and final video, and that is manage your expectations. If you've ever heard me talk about church hurt just in totality before, you know that I always bring up expectations. And sometimes because we hold people too high and because we expect so much from them, it opens us up to be hurt. Now, this is the thing. I do believe that you can have expectations for the church and for the people of God. As people of God, another person who's coming in and looking for Christ should expect to find Christ when they look at us. They should be able to find the character of Christ. No, we're not perfect. No, we're not always on. However, you should be able to find the character of Christ when you look for it in me. That's my responsibility. Just like Jesus, when he walked up to that fig tree, he expected to find fruit and he didn't. And guess what? That tree ended up being bare the next time they saw it. He cursed the tree right then and there, okay? In which I always say he just basically made the tree look like what it was. He caused the tree to be in truth. Because with the big leaves making itself look like it had figs, it was basically lying to everybody, including Jesus. And so he put that tree in truth. What do I mean by that? We should operate in truth. That means that when somebody walks up to our tree and they see all these beautiful green leaves and they start looking for fruit, love, joy, peace, long suffering, they should be able to find it. In order to reconnect with the church, manage your expectations and understand that yes, you can expect to find fruit when you go to the church. However, not every tree is bearing fruit. Okay? So, the first thing is expect people to be flawed. Understand that even the most sincere, well-meaning people are flawed. If you're a new convert and you are trying to be saved, you will quickly learn that even while you're trying your best to live for Jesus, you still have flaws and you still have hang-ups and you still have mess-ups. When you're going into a church, and especially when you've been hurt, expect that people will be flawed, okay? Because you don't want to encounter people's weaknesses and then automatically assume that they will do the same thing that you experienced. That may not be the truth. It may very well just be that people are flawed. On a side note, it's important for us flawed people to just be forthcoming about that. Like, I'm still trying to grow in this area and I just want to be honest and upfront about that. So when people look at us and they're looking for God's character, they'll also understand that, she said she was trying to increase in patience, so I understand. They can have more grace for us whenever we are honest about the fact that we're flawed. Next, do not expect people to accommodate or prioritize your wounds. I'm going to read that again. Do not expect people to accommodate or prioritize your wounds. And I'm going to follow up by saying that's your job. You've been hurt in another setting, but It doesn't mean that that's going to be in the forefront of everybody's mind as you encounter them. Unfortunately, that's just not the world that we live in. But your wounds, your healing is your responsibility. So when you're going into a new setting, you have to understand what is on your mind 24/7, and the hurt that you experience is not going to be on their mind. You have to prioritize your scars, your wounds, your triggers by setting proper boundaries and knowing how to constantly take care of yourself. Because the more care you give yourself, the more capacity you're going to have to deal with flawed people and people who may not have your wounds and things like that in mind. So it's so important for you to prioritize it and not expect everybody else to, because they just can't. Not even the pastor. You know, sometimes we want to be the pastor's number one patient. And I'm sorry, even though we call the church a hospital, you are not your pastor's patient. You have to find care in the proper areas. And you have to know who are the people in the world, in the community around you, who are properly equipped to give you that care. And it's not always the pastor. They may be able to walk with you through that, or they may have other people in the ministry who are better equipped to walk with you through it, or they may have a resource map that hopefully, if y'all read my book, y'all developed a resource book for y'all church where you can make referrals to people in the church who have been hurt, who are working through the healing process, to places in the community. But it's not always the pastor who's going to care specifically for your wounds and your healing, okay? The next thing is be willing to communicate your realistic expectations. When you're joining a church and you have expectations for how you want your experience in that church to be and what you look for in the church, then it's okay to be confident enough to express that, to say, hey, pastor, I'm just saying, I've been hurt before in the church, and I really have a hard time with environments that are saturated with gossip. If that's something that happens in this church, I may not be a member very long. Hey, that's being upfront, that's being open, and that's being honest, and that's a very realistic expectation. One of the things I want you guys to be on the lookout for is a nuanced conversation on church hurt and how we could start the process of healing and meeting each other halfway. Because the truth is, there are valid points coming from every angle. You know, it's that, like I said, this is a nuanced discussion, and I've heard many people have some valid points. I've heard some things that I had disdain for, which is okay, because I feel like in a conversation, those things need to come up as well. I want to facilitate that conversation. So I want you guys to stay tuned. There are more series to come. If y'all have ideas for more series, again, tell me in the comments. I would love to know what you guys would like to hear more about, and I would love to talk about it. I hope that this helped, and I hope that your journey ends ultimately with healing and with a good repaired relationship with the church and with God.